Hi, my name is Joshua Morin, and I'm a director and DP. I primarily shoot travel-related content, and I'm also the co-owner of a media company called Nomo Films. So in this video, I'm going to give you some tips that I've learned over the past decade of making videos abroad. Let's get to it. This video is a follow-up to a series that I started last year about how to make a travel video. If you haven't checked out the other videos, you can do so above, or you can check it out after this video. Also, I wanted to say that if you enjoy this video or any of the other videos and find them useful, then please subscribe and follow along, and that way it'll help me make more content like this in the future. So back in the beginning, when I started shooting videos abroad, I'd arrive in a country or a location with no plan and no concept of what the video was going to look like in the end. I may know some locations and I've done some research, but I didn't know exactly what I was going to shoot or where. There was no client giving me a shot list and no producer to line up locations and talent. Most times this would work out. I would shoot as much as I could, looking for different scenes that caught my attention and my eye. And when I got back, I would take all the footage and then try and make an edit out of it. This is an okay process, but it's really like gambling. You really don't know what you're gonna get, but I guess that's with every film shoot. You're not really exactly sure what you're gonna get. But I find if you go in with a plan, and I think this is changing over time for me, if you go in with a plan, and the more planned that you are, then you're not gambling as much, and you're more likely to come out with a better product or a better video in the end. So my first tip is to try and hire a fixer. So I've had a lot of questions about what a fixer is. If you don't know, a fixer is kind of like a guide, except for they are more in tune with filmmakers or photojournalists or people that need aid finding something in a local country or in a local community that might not be like seeing a site. So a guide would, you go to Taj Mahal, a guide would tell you all about the history of it and how it was built and all these different things. But a fixer is more in tune with the local people. They know how to navigate around the areas. They know how to get specific things for you to film. So for example, when we were in Georgia, we had a few different fixers lined up for us, and they knew all the sheep herders, for example. So these nomadic sheep herders travel all around the country all year round, and our fixer would be calling them up on the cell phone to find out where they were. So their migration route would be, going over these huge mountain passes, and he's on a cell phone talking to whatever their names are, asking them when they're going to go over the pass so that we could catch up with them and film them. So hiring a fixer takes a lot out of the equation. It basically helps you get footage quicker. It basically diminishes your time when you're on the ground, because the fixer can get you right to the area and the location that you need to shoot or you think you want to shoot, and also tell you about other things that maybe you've missed in your research. So most times you have to pay for fixers, but it's not always a case. And sometimes a fixer can be a friend of a friend that is really well versed in their country or their area that they live in. So a really good way to find a fixer or to find some help when you do go abroad to film a documentary or a travel video or whatever it may be is to reach out on social media. So a few things about fixers. They're not always fixers per se. Sometimes they're friends of friends. So in Georgia, we lucked out and we happened to know somebody that lived there already, and she was very well versed with the country and the people there, and she knew a lot of people as well. She set up most of our filming scenes when we filmed in the church, when we were interviewed on national TV, all these different things. She brought that to us. We filmed a few bands. She set that all up for us, and she knew all these people already. So it's a little bit different when she approaches them and asks if we could film them, as opposed to us approaching a news agency or a church, for example. So getting access to these places would have been very difficult without her help. So you can find a fixer in a lot of different ways. In Taiwan, for example, we put a word out on social media. So I think we mentioned it on Instagram or on Facebook, and we ended up meeting a fellow filmmaker out there who was off at the time. I think he was shooting a wedding in Taipei when we landed. And so we met up for a beer, and he happened to be free for the next week. So he ended up driving us around and taking us to different locations. And I mean, that helped with places that we didn't know about. It helped with the language because we couldn't speak it. And also, he had a car and drove us to a lot of places. So these things really help out. It's a little bit different if you're on your own taking local transportation. You can still find good things, but it's just a little bit more time consuming. And when you have somebody like that that has that knowledge, it really gets you access to different places that maybe you wouldn't be able to get on your own. So another thing that we found is to not cheap out on a vehicle if you're renting one, or if you're hiring somebody to drive you around, such as a fixer, and they have a car. Don't cheap out on that vehicle. We've had a lot of problems driving cheaper vehicles, maybe some without 4x4. And like, for example, when we went to shoot the Maasai ceremony in Kenya, we got stuck several times, and one time we had an issue with the fuel gauge where we thought we had no fuel left, and we were in the middle of the desert. Parts were falling off the car. So sometimes like an extra $20 a day will get you a better vehicle, and it'll allow you to climb mountains. It'll allow you to not get stuck places. It'll just be safer on the road. You'll be a bigger car. A lot of these places like Georgia, for example, they drive insanely around these mountain curves, and sometimes it's better to be in a big vehicle. So I'd say upping the budget on a rental vehicle is well worth it. And maybe some of you don't have the budget to rent a vehicle in the first place, and you're taking local transportation. But maybe consider doing that, because I find I used to only take local transportation back in the day, and you do see a lot of cool things that way, and you meet maybe more people for sure. But there's nothing like being able to stop the car anytime you want, or navigate a different road because you see some scene that you want to take a shot of, or maybe there's a farmer that you would like to go try and take a portrait of, or something like that. You can stop your vehicle at any time, and to me that's indispensable, and it makes the trip more worthwhile, especially when you're spending a lot of money to get there. So your production costs are already very expensive because of the airplane or the airfare or whatever it is. Adding an extra $40 or $50 a day for a vehicle, it really makes a big difference. So I'm gonna leave you with this one last tip. It's something that's changed over time for me. At the beginning of my career, I would never consider it even an option, but a colleague of mine changed my mind about it, and that is to consider using stock footage, or even returning to a location after you've left to reshoot something that didn't work out. Before, I would shoot my videos and I would get back, and then I would piece it all together. And if I had missed something, then I would just not include it in the video. But I think that defeats the purpose of the video. I mean, if you're spending all this time to try and gather all the footage, putting it together in the best way possible is the best outcome for your video. So sometimes you have to use stock footage. The scene isn't always going to be the best possible. Sometimes you go out on a location and it's raining, or the subject that you wanted to find isn't there. This happened to me in Taiwan. There's a scene that I really wanted in Taipei, and unfortunately it was a traffic scene, and it only happened during the week. And when we were there, it was on a weekend, and so I never got the chance to film it. But I really wanted this part in my video because it was an iconic scene, and it really showed the type of traffic that happened in Taipei. And so instead of missing out on that, luckily I had our friend go back and film it for us. But had he not done that, I would have just used stock footage for that scene. Because I felt it was important enough to put it in the video, and I really saw that piece being essential. Now, even if I hadn't found stock footage, I would have considered returning to Taipei to go and film that, and maybe film some other things that I missed there before putting the edit together in the end. So, I mean, there's always that fine line of, when a video is finished. But I think that opening your mind up to using stock footage, or even returning to try and film it in a better way, I'm just trying to open your minds to something that I was very closed-minded about back in the day. I mean, I would film it and that would be it. I would get back and then I would edit it and then I'd move on to the next project. But sometimes leaving these things open will make for a better video in the end. So that's all my tips for today. Again, if you guys like this, please subscribe and please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what else you would like to hear from me. I can keep giving more tips. We're continuously shooting. Next week, we're in Guatemala filming a short film. We're going to try and do some behind the scenes from that. And I'm hoping to expand on this and create more content for this channel and for the series. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you at the next one.